Well, the federal government today released its first strategy relating to electric vehicles aimed at knocking down consumer barriers for greater uptake. It also included a new fuel efficiency standard that will come in. Now, these barriers for electric vehicles include the cost of them, the consumer demand and also infrastructure needed to support the cars. Think about the charging stations. Worthy ambitions maybe, but will consumers and the local car industry take up the challenges? Tony Webber is the Chief Executive of the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industries and joins us now. Tony, many thanks for your time. Go first to this fuel standard. Why is that important if Australia long term is to have a dominant supply of electric vehicles?
Because at the moment there's only Australia and Russia that doesn't have a fuel efficiency standard. And what a fuel efficiency standard means is that internationally it sends a message to head office to send fuel efficient vehicles to Australia so that we can have a better CO2 outcome. That's something that the industry has wanted for years, and today is very monumental because it means that we're on the path to having such a fuel efficiency standard.
OK, does it discriminate between the type of vehicles that we might have in the future? In other words, whether it discriminates between electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles or hydrogen-powered vehicles?
Now, the good thing about a fuel efficiency standard, if designed properly, it is technology neutral. So it allows Australians to buy the vehicles that they need and want for their lifestyle and for their work. So for some people, electric vehicles will be the option for the future, whereas for other people, there'll be hybridised vehicles will be the way in which they'll live, because those vehicles allow the flexibility for both work and their family needs.
That's one of the barriers I sense right now is many Australians go, well, what happens if I want to drive, sort of 7 or 8 hours to go on holidays, to see family or to simply do business? That becomes, if you like, one of the key barriers in a country that people are used to travelling such large distances.
Absolutely. You need the technology that you can rely on that actually meets your needs, especially for work. I think that's really important. And I think the other really important element of this is recharging infrastructure. As we move to EVs, and we will move more to EVs over the next 10 to 15 years, we need the public recharging infrastructure to support them. You think how many petrol stations there are in the marketplace at the moment? They will essentially have to be replaced over time with EV recharging infrastructure.
So you put out the regular car sales numbers. I mean, there was, an historic point when the Tesla, for the first time, became one of the top-selling cars in Australia in the past month or so. So again, you get a sense that somewhere not too far down the track, there's a tipping point towards electric vehicles.
There's absolutely going to be a tipping point where electric vehicles become more dominant in the marketplace. But at the moment, they are really only at 7% of sales. And I've never been concerned about the first 20, 30% of buyers transitioning to electric vehicles. It's the last 30 or 40% of the market that's really a concern. It's going to be more difficult because for people living in regional rural Australia, those on the outskirts of the major capital cities, the transformation to an EV is going to be more difficult than it is for people who live in inner suburbs of the major capital cities.
But that even goes to the infrastructure. If there's a push to decarbonise, then there's a real worry that there might be a push to get rid of diesel bowsers, of petrol bowsers in the future, and the alternatives being electricity or potentially hydrogen. So that might force people into a corner or compromise people's lifestyles if we don't have a more flexible approach and a longer-term approach as well.
That's exactly right. We need a holistic approach to this. There needs to be the energy providers providing enough electricity. There needs to be the recycling and all the other infrastructure that goes with it. You think about mechanics, how they've got to be trained for a different environment as we move to EVs. So this paper needs to pick up a holistic response so that people have confidence that when they buy their new vehicle, if they buy an EV, it will be supported in all senses in the market.
But the sense is also that you can't demonise those people who continue to drive diesel vehicles or petrol vehicles. That might be a danger if you really do try and force the electric vehicles or the alternative fuel vehicles into the market too quickly.
Absolutely. Choice is absolutely fundamental to this. And for some people, diesel and petrol or hybridisation of those technologies will be a pathway forward for a long time. And that will be completely appropriate, especially for people in regional rural Australia and those living on the outskirts of the major capital cities. So what we need is a strategy that puts pressure on reducing CO2 from the tailpipe, but allows flexibility for people to buy the vehicles that meet their needs.
I tell you what, Tony Webber, always good to chat to you. Many thanks for your time today.